Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, Jeremy Adrian here. Welcome back to the channel and to our World of Warcraft Classic discussion / roundtable. It's been a year since we did the last one, and as you can see on screen, I've got guests with me, and this time around we're going to be tackling WoW Classic, of course, which is going to be releasing in just a few days. August 27th is the launch date, and we'll go into a couple of different topics and have some fun with our guests and, tackle some questions, ask them some questions, and hopefully you guys will be watching along. And if you got any questions or comments as you listen to our show, go ahead and leave them in the comment section below and we'll get back to you. So before we begin, as usual, let's introduce our guests and get them to talk about WoW and how they got into WoW. You guys may notice a person here, Tom, who's been on our previous roundtable from a year ago. Hello, Tom. It's going to be awkward to ask you to introduce yourself again and talk about how you got into WoW, but I'm gonna have to make you do it, brother. So go ahead and tell folks who you are and how you got started with World of Warcraft.
Sure. Like a lot of people from my generation, WoW was my first MMO. So I started in 2005. So my limited knowledge about the game kind of made it the greatest thing ever for me. I played it really diligently until I didn't hit 60. But I felt like I put every minute I had into that game because I just at the time didn't know anything about it, and getting to level 52 when I was 12 or 13 years old was a big accomplishment for me. So but I've been playing on private servers for a while, up until the most recent server, Lightbringer, kind of died, or Northdale kind of died. Once the population kind of went down there, I kind of stopped playing. But I've been pretty stoked for Classic WoW ever since they released info about it. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just part of the hype train, honestly.
Part of the hype train. I think just a few million other people are on that hype train with you, so don't worry about it. You're in good company.
Right on.
All right, and up next we have from the EU, and I have to say this out loud because putting this together has been a real accomplishment for me. It's the first time I've had a global sort of discussion going on. So Tom's from the NA, Gal, who's going to be talking next, is from the EU, and I'm of course from Southeast Asia, and I don't want to say I represent Oceania too, but hey, I'm from the region, so whatever. So, Gal, from the EU, we've got our time zones in sync, and this is a rare thing to happen. So, introduce yourself to our viewers, and how did you get started with World of Warcraft?
I'm Gallethril, and I started playing from the beginning, but on and off. Never really, hardcore in any way. And it's always one of those games where you just keep coming back after you've been bored with it, for the millionth time.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm back. And I'm probably gonna play a little bit of Classic when it comes out.
Just a little
Here and
bit?
there.
Just a little
Just a little bit. I run the guild on current, so it's,
You don't want to spoil the experience too much, or you just want to take it slow over time? Or are you just too invested in retail right now?
I'm too invested in the guild on current.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
It would be difficult.
Later on in the discussion, we'll pick Gallethril's brains about the retail and what's going on there and all that good stuff. As for me, for those of you that have followed my channel for a very long time, you guys will know that I started World of Warcraft. Actually, started playing it in late 2017, early 2018, right at the tail end of the Legion expansion. So yeah, I'm a very, very late bloomer, which is why this entire WoW Classic thing going on right now is something of interest to me, because I've never had that experience that both our guests, Gallethril and Thomas, had when the game was in its early stages. So before we get into any of our discussion stuff, did you guys catch up in any of the news going on right now, specifically about all the Classic servers almost filling up in population, which is, I think it is, Blizzard has seen this coming, of course, with how popular the game is. So a lot of servers are getting to high population right now. So if you haven't reserved your name for Classic on one of these servers, you better get it done soon. Have you guys done that? Have you guys reserved names already?
To be honest, I wasn't willing to subscribe early.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I forgot about that. You got to be a subscriber to do that, huh?
Yeah.
So
if I was in a less transitional part of life because I'm moving soon, I
Right.
would be probably like, yeah. But I didn't really think my name. I didn't really think TOM was worth $15. I'll just spell it differently.
Are you really going for TOM? Bro, I doubt it's going to be available for you, man.
No, I was going to until I found out you had to subscribe to
Right.
Reserve. But I think, I mean, it's a Blizzard service, but I could have seen them doing open registration without the subs.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
So-
my friends are all talking about how full the server is they want to be on right now.
Yeah, and to me that just shows, you know, the amount of anticipation that the WoW player base has had for this, and it's just blown up into such huge proportions that I think a lot of people saw this coming. I decided I was gonna reserve one of my names on, and to be honest with you, because when I first got on to reserve my name, there's only like a handful of servers, and that was like a few days ago, and now there's multiple servers. I don't even remember the name of the server I reserved my character on. Like I can't recall. And I don't know if you guys want to do this, whether we're all gonna, you know, jump in for like a session or a stream together or whatnot, but we'll have to coordinate which server that's gonna be. But that's gonna be a hassle considering how fast all the servers are filling up. Plus we got the whole EU and A thing going on.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
So
Right.
That's also a problem.
So that's pretty cool. Another thing that came out this week for WoW Classic was Blizzard put out this video where former developers from 15 years ago who worked on WoW Classic were all, you know, taking a trip down to memory lane. If you guys haven't watched that video, I'll put it in the link of this video. Go check it out. It's something to watch while you wait for WoW Classic. I thought that was pretty special because it gave us a lot of insight about some of the original plans for the game and just how much has changed since Classic to where we are in retail WoW now. So that's pretty cool. So with that out of the way, I guess let's move into our first segment and let's get the really hard-hitting topics you know, going on first. And I want to pick both of you guys' brains for this section. Basically, from a World of Warcraft retail standpoint, with where we are today with Battle for Azeroth launching a year ago, and we're up to patch 8.2 now, Rise of Ashara. When WoW Classic was first announced, you know, you've got a lot of players saying, oh, this is fantastic. It's going to be finally an official sort of vanilla server, and it's going to, I wouldn't say get rid of private servers entirely, because I still believe that players are going to still play in private servers because that doesn't require subscription, whereas the official WoW one does. But still, the amount of support and hype and just anticipation for this in general, a lot of it is down to nostalgia, which I think both of you will agree, but a lot of it is also down to sort of this negativity for current retail WoW. And this is a controversial topic to start this video off, actually, because you still have millions of players playing World of Warcraft. But for me, as someone who's on, I wouldn't say I'm a veteran of World of Warcraft. I'm considered a newbie myself, having only been here about a year. I still can't understand that sort of, you know, pro classic versus pro retail. I just want you guys to shed some light on why retail WoW is being perceived as sort of the failure right now, which is going to result in, or which has resulted in WoW Classic being hailed as sort of the savior, the messiah. How did this happen, and why is the perception the way that it is? Anybody want to tackle that?
Go for it, Tom.
I think that the game has taken on so many forms, and I think a huge percentage of the player base for WoW has checked in to every expansion. And I would say that from my perspective, though I've missed Pandaria and Cataclysm, I feel like the game has slowly lost certain sandbox elements and kind of slowly gained more theme park elements. That's really vague, right? I mean, you can talk all day about what is what, but I just think that since the game has slowly, it seems to have kind of changed in one way, completely from classic to now. And so I think that people take, oh, what's my best comparison to the polar opposite? And that's classic, because that's when leveling was objectively the most difficult or time consuming. And, you know, things just took a lot longer. So I think it might honestly be that most people's best comparison it's the game in its early state and not necessarily another game. Because maybe that's, I don't know. Seems like WoW is a lot of people's only big history with MMOs.
Right.
It's just WoW.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. It's also interesting too that classic. See, like you're saying, I think a lot of people have sort of that. WoW, the original WoW Classic or Vanilla WoW was my first MMO kind of experience. And I completely agree with that. I can see where you're coming from with how theme park it is today. Like for a person like me, and I would argue newer generation of MMO players, and what I mean by that is players who have maybe come into MMORPGs or come into World of Warcraft many years after, let's say Cataclysm or one of their more recent expansions. Like for me, I can only use myself as a baseline here. Theme park, modern day theme park WoW is all I've known. And when I jumped in, I thought, okay, if this was how the game was back then, cool, because I didn't know any better. So I can't say if I prefer it to classic WoW or not, even though I was in the beta, but I didn't want to do too much. I didn't want to spoil that experience for myself. So yeah, I can see that side of things. What about you, Gail? Anything to add? You are currently heavily playing retail WoW, so you've seen sort of like some of these changes happening ever since you came back. That is, and you're playing through some of the new content when a lot of other people around the same time now they're all kind of just stopped or dropped their subs and are just playing something else. So your thoughts?
Well, I did miss Legion, so I don't know how that was, because everybody's like, oh, Legion was the best and whatever. So I can't compare it to that. But I do think that the game slowly changed to like try and please different type of players, like
by different types. Do you mean casuals? I'm just throwing it out there.
Say,
okay.
But they're trying to like have different types of game styles within the same games. I think that's maybe also the problem, because in Classic, I mean, it was directed at one type of player.
Yeah.
Instead of like maybe 50 different ones that all want to do something different.
Okay, that's an interesting point. So so in your opinion, like retail WoW now is just catering to like all kinds of players. You got the soloers, you got the raiders, you got the casuals. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because in a neutral point of view, having multiple playstyles for retail WoW would sound like a good thing. Like even I would agree. Most MMO theme park MMOs, when you offer plenty of things to do for your player base at the end game or in the mid game, I think that's a pretty positive thing. When you see other modern day MMORPGs that fail to do that, I'm going to use WildStar as an example. There was only the hardcore end game crowd, and that was it. There's no in between for everybody else, and that's led to the game's death, unfortunately. So, we can debate this all night, but I tend to think that having more offering is a good thing. So in comparison,
I think it's yes and no.
Right.
Because if I compare it to running a guild, for example, if I want to cater to all the different types, I'll never be good at all of them.
Right.
Like the guild will never be good at all of them. It will just be kind of okay. But if I focus on, for example, only raiding, I can put all my energy in that and actually be good at it.
Right. So
it's a yes and no, really.
How would you classify yourself as a WoW player, Gallethril? Are you a raider? Do you identify more as a casual raider? And
yeah.
Would you consider World of Warcraft, in your own opinion, to be a raider's game primarily? Like primarily. If there's one good thing to come out of retail WoW in today's age, in discussion, would it be the raiding primarily?
I'm not sure. Like the raids are fun, but for myself, I enjoy the Mythic Plus dungeons more at the moment.
Gotcha.
I hear that from a lot of people too. Mythic Plus is their favorite thing.
And that's something recent for World of Warcraft, I would say, in the last 5-6 years. So that's something people won't get in WoW Classic, right?
No.
Right, not at all. That came in Legion.
So yeah,
I think it came in Legion, yeah.
and another reason why this particular topic, in the public's eye, especially with modern media, I've seen YouTubers debate this. I've seen PC Gamer, IGN, all your other big media outlets. They've all, I wouldn't say they have an agenda, but there's this public sort of drama going on. Why WoW Classic versus retail WoW is the thing to keep an eye on. And for me, it's more of a case of one doesn't have to do something better than the other. They both can coexist because they're just different offerings of a game made for specific different audiences. And that's just my 2 cents. I personally don't get this whole versus mentality that only seeks to, I think, split the WoW community even further. Because even today, on my own channel videos, you'll have people saying, WoW Classic over retail any day and things like that. I'm like, why even go there? Like, what's the point? If the point is to ultimately kill retail WoW, that's not gonna be good for anybody. I think the game has evolved to a stage today where any sort of major changes that World of Warcraft makes, there's always going to be a split opinion. You like it or you don't like it, but the game has to move on. At least this is how I see things.
For me, as someone who I feel like I've invested more hours into Classic than I have into any other one expansion, I hope that retail succeeds more, just because I know there's an end in sight for Classic. It's just a matter of time for Classic, in my opinion.
Right.
And I hope that does well, but more than anything, I hope that retail just gets better. That's what I want to play. Because Classic is confined to a certain level of no changes.
Right.
Because that's an experience that they're providing for other people. And there's a ton of day-to-day convenience in retail that's really nice. There's also some that I think is a little too much. But I love retail PvP. I think that's my favorite part of retail. PvP,
awesome.
Fast PvP queues. You could do every battleground in a day if you want. You can pick which battlegrounds you want to queue for. I think that's really fun.
This is kind of why I like discussions like this, because you hear a whole different sides of things, different opinions, different answers, which, to be honest, I was expecting, and I've spoken to other of my other people that play WoW too, my friends, and I've gotten all kinds of responses from them as well with Classic. Like, one of them said once Classic comes out, that's the only thing they're going to play. That's going to be their main MMORPG again. And other people can't fathom that because, dude, it's just Classic. It's just there, Whereas you're saying you've played Classic for a long time, but retail is still going to be your main World of Warcraft driver in the end. So I find that pretty interesting. Let's talk about that for a second. So, Tom, you think WoW Classic is just going to remain level 60 vanilla, and you don't want it to move on to expansions? Because I did see Blizzard talk about that. They were putting systems in place that can make it happen if they decided to, but ultimately they're going to keep it at Classic for the time being. Do you want them to go to expansions or no?
Yeah, so I would love to see them go through the expansions again, especially because 2 and 3, Burning Crusade and Wrath, are some of my favorites. Mm-hmm. They implement a couple quality of life changes in those expansions that made me really want to play it. You can play Ret Paladin DPS a lot better in Burning Crusade. So much fun, you know what I mean? And
yep.
And it completely changes out of its original format of Paladin in Wrath. So if you want to play Ret Paladin and you like the original style and you want to do well, Burning Crusade is your. I guess I'm rambling about Paladin now, but
all good.
I feel like there was an end in sight for Classic, but if you talk about them continuing to put out individual expansions after that, I mean, there's an end in sight. Everyone knows the content; it's all been played before, but it's going to have a lot of playtime value to it. I mean, we're talking probably 9 years of gameplay time for people if they go through the first 3 expansions, including Classic. I'm thinking 2.5, 3 years of good gameplay for Classic for some people.
Christ.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gal, you wanted to add something?
No.
Okay, I thought I was interrupting you there. Nope. Yeah, hearing that, I get a little excited, but at the same time, I got deflated as hell because there's just no way I have the time to like invest in WoW Classic. See, I've been bringing up my recent stream. There was this entire discussion about WoW Classic going on, and people like, "Oh, are you gonna play it? Are you gonna suck yourself into it? Are you gonna lose yourself in WoW Classic?" I'm like, I wish I could. There's no way for me today with you know the amount of games that I play to actually spend the amount of time. I would love to, and you know my personal goals of playing Classic is I don't just want to stay in Classic forever because I want to go and experience all the things that I've never had the chance to experience at launch. Things like Wrath of the Lich King, which is consistently brought up as the best WoW expansion subjectively, although I would say 90% of the people have consistently mentioned that expansion as being the best for its storytelling and everything else, and I'm a big sucker for story, and I like WoW story, so I would like to play up until Wrath and then call it a day, you know, because the rest of it I can just get it in retail if I want to level another alt.
Right.
So yeah, I can't see Classic staying Classic forever. They may, I don't know what they want to do with it. If they ever end up catching retail, which I don't think they will, they're just gonna give themselves more problem than that. And now we got two versions of the game, you know,
Right.
running side by side.
I do want to say that I think that depending on your perspective, you could still really enjoy WoW Classic casually. And I'm not super versed on what the release schedule is for like Dire Maul and things like that. But if they release that stuff slowly, which I think they will, you should be able to play the game really casually, and you won't need to hit 60 within the first 2 months, really. You know, you could take 3-4 months to hit 60 and still get good catch up. The idea is that there are certain ways for players to get really far ahead in early stages, but that's only really going to benefit them in like PvP or in their raid. Right. So people will be ahead of you, so to speak, but the only thing that's going to make you feel like you need to catch up is your own anxiety. You'll still be able to do enough DPS, get the consumables for raids, and you can still like get really decently geared for PvP by just doing 10-man raids like Upper Blackrock Spire without needing to go into Molten Core. I knew people who played on private servers who say they never did Molten Core. They never did a 40-man raid because they were casual and they just never had time for it. But
I've never
had
a 40-man raid.
But that's considered like the only end game thing to do in Classic sometimes. But you can collect full tier sets from the 10-man raid and then do really lengthy quests that take you all over the world to transform those into a better version of your tier set. And that's theoretically without even going into anything bigger than a 10-man group. So there's a big ideology around Classic that if you don't have a lot of time, you're not going to be good. I think that's not true. I think if you want to be at the top of the highest percentage all the time, then yeah, you need to have a lot of time. But it's not going to affect you in any way. Kind of like retail.
Yeah.
You know, it won't affect you. There's just so many people. Unless they gank you specifically while you're trying to get their herbs or whatever.
Can be avoided if you pick the right servers, which is also a good question. Are you guys doing PvP servers or PvE servers?
What, on Classic?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It kind of depends where my friends are going to go.
Yeah.
For me.
I'm doing PvP because I know none of my friends are going to pick a PvE server. But I also want to play on the roleplay server.
Right. Yeah, I've heard lots of stories about Classic roleplay back in the day, and you know, just how amazing that scene was. Like I was into roleplay for maybe a couple of months in Lord of the Rings Online, which is a different thing entirely because you know that one has Tolkien to back it up and music and everything. So with WoW, it's hard to roleplay because you have to be really invested in sort of like the story and everything. But it's a fun challenge. I can't do it anymore, but. And just for the record, my first reserve character is on a PvE server, so I've still got 2 more characters. I'm probably gonna do one of each then, one PvP, just to see how that turns out. Because I hear the whole getting ganked in Stranglethorn thing is an achievement on its own, because that freaking veil and the quests that you have to do there, even on retail, I could just imagine, you know, how PvP while you're questing is just going to turn out.
Yeah, try to go there with friends.
I don't have any. Unfortunately.
Try to get some viewers. You'll have viewers that will help you, but
I don't want to be that guy. Like streamers and YouTubers are getting bad rap for WoW. Like apparently, they are the cause for all these servers filling up. Like, oh, this streamer's on this server, and then everybody just goes in.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can save a server.
What do you mean?
If a server is going really low on population and there is some big time streamer, it could save a server.
I mean, those
that's
are
the other
players.
side.
Possibly, yeah.
Those are paying customers. I mean, the server might be heavily isolated to like one location. That is weird, but
yeah.
I mean,
that's cool. Just guys in chat that are WoW players, don't ever ask me to join a server to save it. I am a nobody, absolute nobody. I do not have such power. Like I don't even get freebies from games. Like so don't look to me for any server saving miracles. All right, let's get to the next segment, and this one is about the impact and the outcome that we can speculate and have fun with. But before that, I want to get to some quickfire questions. Quickfire questions for our guests, for our viewers, simply means I'm going to throw them something hard, and it's going to curveball their answer. So let's see what happens, all right? Okay, first quickfire question. This one, we'll start with Gal. If only one could exist, would you pick WoW Classic or Retail WoW? Forever, if only one could exist.
Can they still improve?
Sure, but the other has to die.
ooh,
Probably current
Retail, okay.
and just improve it.
Tom.
I'd take a do-over just to watch the world burn.
Fair enough. I would pick WoW Classic and watch the game turn into Retail in the next 10-15 years. Just history repeating itself.
All over again.
This is a selfish answer because I never got to experience, the entire WoW journey. So by killing Retail WoW today, I get to experience it, like it was fresh. So that's my answer. Okay, and we've done this before, but unfortunately, and I'll tell you guys in the bloopers, we've actually recorded this discussion previously, but it was unusable. So some of these questions will be reused. Favorite WoW, World of Warcraft story character? Tom.
I've thought about this more since we talked about it. Can I have another second? I need to try and recall.
Sure.
Can I go after Gal? Okay.
Take your time. All right, Gal.
Yeah, I'm still gonna say the same thing, so I don't know if you're gonna make the same reaction.
I have that reaction saved. I have the reaction saved.
I'm still gonna say at this moment, because it changes all the time, obviously.
Yep.
But like with her background story and everything, I still like Sylvanas, even though she's not very nice right now.
Yep.
You're not responding the same way.
So, all right, I'm gonna insert Tom's previous reaction in the video, in this part of the video right now.
Oh! No.
Yeah, so Sylvanas is great. I like Sylvanas, as I said the last time as well, because she's finally, at least for me, coming into WoW. You've got leveling my first character up. You meet all kinds of people, right? Some of them you've experienced from Warcraft 3 and Warcraft, the books and everything coming into the MMO. Some of these WoW characters are really cardboard. Like they're just like cardboard cutouts. Their reaction is so obvious, and that kind of thing. So when you get morally gray characters like Sylvanas and others that does things not just to instigate wars or to come across as just evil. They all have reasons for doing these things, and once you consume sort of the external media as well, like the novel that came out before BFA, you watch the shorts. The Blizzard produced excellent shorts, those short story videos that they came up with, the comics that they came up with, really awesome stuff. Paints a lot more into her character, not just as a villain and a leader of the Horde, but I won't deny she polarizes the community a whole lot. Like, even Horde players started jumping ship to Alliance simply because they can't stand Sylvanas. And when, in my opinion, when you have such a strong reaction to a character, you give the writer a raise. That's how these things go. When you get a reaction from your player base, they fucking did a good job with whatever they were doing. Whether it's bad publicity or good publicity, people react. What you don't want is you put in an effort to write a character and people are like, whatever, okay, yeah, cool, she did that. That is terrible when it comes to narration. So in this case, Blizzard has a good character. All right, Tom, you got your...
For me, it's kind of interesting because I am actually on the Alliance side.
Oh,
yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah. I am Alliance as well, and for me, the whole Anduin versus Sylvanas thing, like, I get where Anduin's coming from. He's the exact opposite of his father, and I do like his arc that he goes on through. So for me, seeing how one is affected by the other, how Sylvanas is affected by Anduin's almost nonchalant reaction to everything, he stops and thinks and has a calmer way of resolving problems, whereas his dad is just like, balls to the wall, I'll fucking kill you, that kind of thing. So I do kind of like that. Yeah. So yeah.
Good old Rin.
All right.
Rip.
You got your stuff?
I think if we're talking like book characters, my favorite character is still Medivh.
Mm-hmm.
I like him a lot. But I think if we're talking in-game characters, either Illidan or Durotan, one of them. I definitely really liked Illidan's role in Legion, and I like how he shattered the Naru when they were on the ship. That was just wicked wild. I remember that scene. I was like,
spoilers for everybody.
The God of Light, bro.
Spoilers for people who haven't played through Legion or anything. But yeah, Illidan was a cool character.
Played through 3 years ago. Yes.
Hey, you know what? I still put out like videos and cutscenes from expansion stories that happened like fucking 2 years ago, and people like fucking spoiler tag it. I'm like, are you serious? I get shit on spoilers for so much from folks, but can't be avoided.
Okay.
So yeah, Illidan's a good call. I like Illidan a lot. Yeah, so this was supposed to be like a quick fire section, but it ended up being like a slow fire. All right, let's get into our next segment, shall we? I want to talk about impact or perceived impact and outcome for WoW Classic. But first of all, are you guys really surprised by the hype and popularity of WoW Classic? Really? Like, are you guys surprised at all, or no? This was expected.
I'm not surprised. I think there's a lot of nostalgia there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised by how many people are truly involved at this point, because when I was playing on Nostalrius, the first big server to get shut down, it didn't seem like there was that many people as interested in Classic as there are now. I guess it seems like there's way more people interested now that it's been offered.
I am specimen A in this case, because Tom has been getting me to try one of these private servers for quite some time, and I've been avoiding it because honestly, I don't have time for it. And then suddenly WoW Classic comes out, and I'm like, well, that takes care of my problem, because it's right there on Battle.net for one, and it's integrated into my WoW sub for two, so it just reaches everybody in a very sort of mainstream manner. Whereas I think private servers unfortunately has this sort of misconception, like, oh, it's a bit dirty. It feels dirty playing on this. That's some people that I talk to feel that way. I don't really mind if it's a private server or not, but I think that's one perception out there about playing on private servers, maybe because it's wrong, or they don't want to get into any trouble, or they don't want to download virus. I don't know.
It's interesting because, like, a comparison to Star Wars Galaxies, I played that game on live in its final form, and that game is divided into like 3 big chunks. And the earliest form is considered the pre-CU form. And everybody at the time harped about those, like the golden days and like the greatest era of the game. It was so much better. There was 34 classes. It was way harder to become a Jedi, blah, blah, blah. And so they released a server with all this content as a private emulation 5 or 6 years ago. It really like crashed and burned because it was so low on content. And I think people truly remembered it so much differently than it was, just because maybe they were less informed, or, you know, it was more mysterious to them. They didn't Google everything. But I don't know. I think nostalgia is just a bitch. I think it's like having blinders on. I think it can really make you think something's greater than it is. For your current state of tolerance, you know.
Yeah, man, I so agree with that, and that's a fantastic segue into what I was gonna bring up, because it seems like a lot of these, the popularity and this hype, and, you know, the herd mentality of sort of, there's a term that's out there called WoW fuging, which means fleeing current live version of WoW to any other game. You know, WoW fugees. Instead of refugees, get it? WoW fugees. So there's this WoW fugee thing going on where everybody, you know, moving from retail to classic. And what you just brought up there about nostalgia, it really depends on how you remembered something or how you perceive something at the very beginning. And when you go back to it, you may not necessarily like that experience. I think, and I'll get Gal's take on this, but I think a large majority of players that have not done any research or don't know anything about WoW Classic, they're just going for the sake of, maybe it is true, maybe this is going to be better than, you know, retail WoW. I think they're going to get really disappointed with how sort of hardcore and old school and how dated some of the game designs can be. And I'm not saying that in a condescending or bad way, because we all can agree that WoW Classic was made for people who know what they're getting into. So these people that are coming back for nostalgia, or the idea that the nostalgia is going to be better than what the game retail is today, I think they're going to be sorely disappointed. And I'd hate to see some of the reactions, you know? Some guy's going to put out a video, oh, WoW Classic sucks because it doesn't have this and this and this. And I'm like, do your fucking homework. You should have known this going in. Although I feel like a large majority of people won't do that anyway, so.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Impact. I want to talk Impact, and this was directed to Gal specifically, because Gal runs a guild on World of Warcraft retail on one of the EU realms. If WoW Classic becomes so popular, actually, before I phrase this question, have you noticed a decline in your server's population or decline in your guild ever since the announcement was made, or has activity been just constant throughout?
No, I think it's just been slowly dropping since the beginning of the expansion.
Okay.
Like, I can feel it. The server is less populated.
I felt it. My guild on the Oceanic server, Sourfang, we disintegrated. Like,
I heard that a lot.
So some of them went to Frostborn PvP and whatever, and the entire server's just kind of dead. So I've been back in 8.2, just doing everything solo again, like, you know. Okay, sorry for taking up your time, but yeah, go ahead. So you've noticed it going down slightly. So this question directed at you. If WoW Classic takes off so much, like it's become so popular, it's so great, is this the end then for retail WoW? Is this really going to see it decline further, or will it have an opposite effect where people will be like, okay, I've had my fill of Classic, it's time to go back to retail? I mean, you play primarily on retail. What would the ideal outcome would be?
I think that for most people, there's gonna be a hype for Classic for a little bit, and then they either move on to another game or they come back to current. Because I'm just gonna call it current, because both are gonna be retail soon.
That's true.
So I think there's gonna be a decline in all the
live
current
servers. Yeah.
live servers when Classic comes out for a bit at least.
That's
And then it kind of depends on what they're gonna do with current, I think.
okay. Another good segue. Have they done enough for you with BFA? I know you came back for BFA, so you didn't necessarily maybe sort of experience things in Legion where, you know, it was more positively seen. Like when world quests were out in Legion, people were like, okay, it's the same thing from like maybe an upgrade from Draenor, if you will. And then we also got the class halls, which was an upgrade from what was it in Draenor? Garrisons? Yeah, I think they're called garrisons. So there's a lot of things Legion just, you know, tacked on, but made it sort of better. I think for me, artifact weapons were like my favorite part of the whole gear process with Legion, and I was a bit disappointed to lose that in BFA, only because for me, the Azerite system and the Azeroth, you know, Heart of Azeroth system is just a poor replacement for your legendary weapons, artifact weapons. Sorry. So with you coming in BFA and now 8.2 has a lot of these mechanic and progression system changes from 8.0 to 8.2 been enough for you? Are you happy with the changes?
I think it did get a little better, but it didn't fix it completely, in my opinion.
What's the biggest problem right now that needs fixing, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's difficult.
Okay.
Like I don't feel like that the new levels on the heart are making that much difference.
Right.
To what it was before.
Do you like the new trait system though, where, you know, you level up your heart and you can pick and drop, you know, drag and drop traits into your builds? And I think this thing existed in WoW before. I can't remember because I only know up to like Legion, right? So this whole trait thing, was it in the game before and you're now just bringing it back?
I can't remember.
I think
if it was there, I can't remember.
I think that started in Legion. I don't think there was a mechanic similar in WoD.
I don't think so, no.
It's Panda or Kata, but
Gotcha.
I don't think that's a Legion.
But I don't feel like the whole system is making me want to look at it constantly to make it better.
Right.
Like to make my character better. I don't feel like I have to do that constantly. And that should be something I should be focusing on.
Yeah.
To make my character better.
Yeah, I agree with that. So in Legion, I was really invested in, you know, catching up with my artifact weapons to try and get all these new stuff.
Same.
But with BFA, you know, Azerite systems made me, whatever. I'm happy with my eye level. I'll go do the things that I want. You know, I couldn't care less about adding in some of these other, you know, clickies on my Azerite heart just to make myself run faster.
I don't feel like it's cool, like with the artifact weapon.
Yeah. I mean, artifact weapons are tangible.
That's the problem.
Yeah, they're tangible. You could see them, you know. The Heart of Azeroth, you don't see anything. I mean, from a visual perspective. Obviously, from a meta perspective, your rating and everything, of course, getting the good luck of the RNG roll will help you get some better pieces that could maybe improve your GPS output or whatever. But for me, it just got to a point where I just stopped caring. So with 8.2, hearing all these changes was great. I think some of my friends or some of my ex-guildies were talking about the open world content in Nazjatar and what's the other zone? Mechagon.
Mechagon, yeah. The new dungeon they added as well.
The new dungeon, the open world sort of questing, and the new, oh gosh, this gear that you can upgrade.
Baleful.
Benthic.
Baleful's from WoD.
Close though.
It's fine.
It started with a B. You almost got it
9 years ago.
Yeah, so whatever they're doing right now, I don't know if it's a knee-jerk reaction or what, but you know, I sat down and I watched the entire 8.2 presentation by Ion Hazikostas, and it seems like they want to try and change things. I don't know how long it's going to take to sort of please all the players that left WoW for different reasons. Maybe it got too grindy for having to do the same things over and over again. Like one of the major complaints I've seen here on my channel, in fact, in the comment section, was it's the same shit every expansion, just skinned differently. You have the same formula. Your questing hub crawls to different zones, your reputation grinds, and then when that ends, the whole world quest grind, you know, begins for your post-game content. The feeling I get from reading the comments is that people want that formula to go away completely and for a while to try something drastically different. Is that something you guys want to see too? Like they just break up that, monotonous theme park formula and just try something entirely new for the new expansion. Like I don't know if you guys played like Guild Wars 2, for example. After you finished a vanilla game, you had like this, stale end game, and then when you get to Heart of Thorns for the first time, the entire map design in the Maguma areas, and the way the world quests, not world quests, but the world events come to life in a narrative-driven way, it's just sort of, it felt like a different game entirely. Is that something drastic that needs to happen with World of Warcraft in order to really win players back?
I find that very difficult because some people like that routine as well. There's some people that want that routine because then they know what they can expect.
Okay, it's hard to say because I didn't really watch the sub numbers rise and fall over the years, and you can't really look at them anymore either, right? But
no,
I think that since they've tried so hard to cater to so many different groups of people, while doing so, they've lost a huge player base of people who maybe thought they wanted easier access to endgame items or this or that or whatever, but the reality is that they just wanted things to be hard for them and for them to always have something to work towards.
Yep.
I think when BFA literally has a way for you to have the same gear as everybody, except for Benthic, of course. If you need Benthic, you have to go to Nazjatar. But for the most part, if you want to get good eye-level gear and just get caught up, you can do battlegrounds, dungeons.
It's very easy.
I don't know much about pet battles, but you can, like you say, you can get geared for a raid in any route you want easily, and just by spending a couple hours a day. And I think that does really cater to people who can't play a lot, and that's cool. But I think the ease of access has deterred a lot of players.
I think they just need to focus on some of the aspects more so they can get better at that instead of going all the way wide.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like the game. Give it a couple directions.
It's
instead of 10 or 50.
it's right. It's a juggling act for Blizzard, really. I don't think any MMORPG out there today can, I think most of them has become this jack of all trade kind of thing where, we'll offer you some fun content here and there, but it's not going to be, we're not going to be the best at anything as comparison to other niche MMOs out there where it's primarily only PvP. I think we're starting to see an emergence of that. Games like Crowfall and games that are just sandbox in general. Blizzard, I think, they have to compromise here and there. So if there's one thing that needs improving with live World of Warcraft, whether it's the story and questing department, or is it the raiding department or the PvP department, which one of those three needs priority for the foreseeable future? Or the mechanics and progression department, 4. So that's your again, story and narrative and questing, and then you've got your endgame and raiding, then you've got your PvP, and then you've got your progression and gear systems and your class progression, whatever. I'm just lumping it all into one. Which needs the most work near future?
For me, it's between class development, like talent points, and class diversity, and questing and leveling. I like leveling characters, but not in retail.
Yeah, I'm with the first and then the gearing.
Okay.
Because it's too easy right now. It really, really is. There are people that get crazy item levels while they don't know their character at all.
Well, you can blame the level boost for that. You can blame the character boost for that. Right?
Even people that didn't boost have the issue. They don't know how to play their character, but they have a crazy item level.
You just do the Warcraft.
So they get into everything and sometimes ruin it.
Right. So at least I know the requirements to joining Gallethril's guild right now is to know my shit, know what I'm doing with my class.
Well, no, because we're not hardcore. But if you go into a hardcore guild, you would definitely need to know your shit.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I notice it sometimes around me, even with random people or whatever, that they don't they have a really good item level, but they don't know how to play their character, and it's a pity.
Has that not happened to you guys sometimes when you take long breaks? Like, I jump between MMOs all the time, and sometimes I come back and I totally forget how to play my class, so I'll mess up once in a
Yes,
while.
but then I kind of make sure that I learn how to play my class before I do something with other people.
Totally, yeah.
Very responsible.
I
Yes.
wait a really long time before I group when I'm playing a new class or when a new expansion drops. I definitely wait a long time before I group. I'm always amazed that people they'll sign up for a Mythic Plus and they'll be like, oh yeah, it's great item level, and they won't know the first mechanic, which is okay. But MMO culture, in my opinion, suggests that if it's your first time there, that you mention it.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. Because in Classic WoW, if we're doing the comparison thing, to get, for the most part, it's different in leveling because, at certain levels, a mage is just going to obliterate a warrior in world PvP. But once you get to a certain level, if you want to be a really, really good mage, you have to do difficult things to get really good items. You can't just get those items by doing your daily world quests in Classic, because those don't exist. And you can't just do your pet battles or whatever. That doesn't exist. The item you need comes from a boss in a raid, and that's it. It's the only way you're going to get it. And the only way you're going to get it is if you beat the other people in that group for the role for it.
Yep.
So that sounds painful to a lot of people, but I think that's the reason I play it. It's because I'm like, ooh, look at the goodies that he has, man. He must have raided that raid like 100 times.
I think that's the definition of winning in an MMO that I think we all grew up with. Like, when we first got into MMO, that's how we won. When it comes to progression, your own progression. To that classic boss drop roll and RNG, and you fight off people begging you for it, and of course you'll get, I don't know if this happened in WoW Classic, where you get the one asshole who takes the loot and then kicks people out of the group and things like that. Does that happen in WoW?
That happen a lot in Classic. People were really notorious for it. Did they not say they're going to do loot trading in Classic? That's a change they're adding.
Oh, I'm not sure.
So
I'm not
you can
sure.
trade to loot eligible people for 4 hours after. So you give them an opportunity to reconcile themselves if they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to need it.
As if they're gonna do that. As if they're gonna give it back. I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they added that, which is a change for Classic. I hope I'm not wrong, but I'm pretty sure they did.
That's cool.
But yeah, ninja looting, bad.
Looting, yeah. It's because of ninja looting. Like back, one of my first jobs in as an MMO writer was to research this thing called DKP. I'm not sure if you guys know what DKP is, but it's an old school term for you modern day MMO players. You may not know what DKP is, but DKP was started to sort of counter this ninja looting assholes who would join a guild run or something like that, and then they'd steal the loot and leave. So the DKP system was more of a merit based thing. How many people joined the run over the last month, and you had to earn your way up the ranks to be eligible to be the next one in line to get a specific loot from a raid or a boss, something like that. So it's a system I have only ever been involved in once a long time ago, and then it just died. In all the MMOs I played, that DKP system died. So I don't know if it's gonna come back for Classic.
It was so much work, though.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it was.
Oh my god.
Classic WoW.
I wouldn't want to do that again, to be honest.
You had, the guild leader had spreadsheets. The officers had spreadsheets. The Excel sheets, points, and everything. Yeah.
Yep.
Private server people use DKP sometimes. I would see them advertising guilds for it, but it wasn't as common as loot council, which basically means there are 4 or 5 officers in your guild who just make the call on who gets what, straight up.
That doesn't sound very fair, does it?
Right. There was a lot of drama in the guild I was in because they were purely loot council. However, I noticed myself, since I helped other players and since I consistently went to 20 mans, even though I may not have needed something from it, I got awarded loot all the time out of 4 or 5 other paladins. And it was just because I was nice and did a good job. I don't know. I feel like you just have to depend on 39 other people in Classic if you want to get those high level items. You got to make sure everybody gets what they need, or like, I don't know, you'll just never get your own, and that's it. You'll get lucky, but then you won't be a part of a good guild or anything. It's too hard to get that shit in Classic.
I guess, for those jumping to Classic, and if it's your first time going to Classic, I would say do a little research, sort of plan out some goals, what you want to achieve. Do you want to be that sort of, I'm going to, be thick with my gear, and I'm going to try and get the best gear, because all these things, it's not going to be, a one-night romp in a raid and you've got everything you need. You're not going to have easy access to all the gear and stuff like that, because it's, I'm telling you, man, like, I played the beta for a bit, and even then, I got culture shocked, all right, in terms of how different WoW was back then. Not a whole lot of hand-holding. You definitely want to play with others and play with friends. So yeah, do some research and have an outline of what you want to achieve in WoW Classic. Really, at least that's what I'm doing for myself, because I know if I go aimless, it's gonna take me a year to even think about where I want to be or what I want to accomplish, instead of just having finished the story, because everybody can do that.
Yeah.
So we'll head into our final segment shortly, but not before a quick message from our sponsors. I'm just kidding, I don't have any. So we'll go into another round of quickfire questions. This one is a popular quickfire What?
Sorry, that was the imagery for the sponsor part. I thought you were gonna talk about Speed Stick or something.
that would have been cool. I didn't even recognize the dragon. And what's that from? D&D?
Yeah, it's from Attack Wing. That
gotcha.
Strategic minigame for dragons.
Cool. All right, quick fire question. Very popular one. Favorite expansion and why? Tom.
Ooh. It's really hard, because I want to say favorite expansions are like the ones I haven't played the most of. Like, I haven't done a lot of it in. But I would say that I have liked Classic. Does that count as an expansion or no? No.
Not really, but I'll let it pass.
Not really.
Not really, but I'll give that to you. So just the Classic.
It's gonna be it'd be Burning Crusade. If it weren't Classic, it'd be Burning Crusade.
Okay. Gel?
I actually don't know.
Why is this such a hard one?
Like, some of these are so long ago, I can't remember them exactly.
All right, well, just off the top of your head, then. There's
Probably
no wrong
the
answer.
Lich King one.
Nope.
No, there's no wrong answer.
Yeah, there's no wrong answer.
No, I'd probably go with like the Lich King one or
Lich King?
something. Yeah.
Wrath is so good. So good.
Yeah. And
I would love progression servers for that, so you can like experience everything again.
yeah, that's what I want to do, because I never played all of them on levels. So Wrath would be, I think, my first pick too. I think I said this in the last round as well. That character has been sort of in my periphery since I played Warcraft 3. Arthas and his character arc and everything. So, and the same thing, I'm going to say it again, once you experience everything, the raid, the story, the quest, the build up, and then that Arthas soundtrack plays at the end with that cinematic cutscene, and it's just, you get goosebumps, it's like, shit, that's awesome. And I just couldn't wait to see what Jaina would have to say about, the events there. So that expansion, there's a lot of good things there for Wrath. Yeah, that'll be my pick.
Yeah, you'd love Wrath.
Sure. Not as much as Battle for Azeroth. Look, honestly, people give Battle for Azeroth so much shit. I just want to come out here and set the record straight for people on my channel who want to know what I think of BFA. Hey, I finished it and I enjoyed the story. My issues aren't really with the expansion from a narrative point of view, but more on the systems side of things, But BFA overall, I thought was fun. That's my 2 cents. So
I like the story.
All of them have the good sides and the bad sides.
Yep.
Like all the expansions do.
Yes.
Okay. Do you guys have any? This is me throwing you the microphone and asking you if you have any quick fire questions you want to ask. Feel free.
for the audience or for you?
For me, for the audience, anything. Go for it.
Adrian, as someone who didn't play classic WoW, do you feel like pressured to get to 60 fast? Do you feel pressured to like play it fast? I know you're kind of a wild card, but like, do you feel that pressure?
Wait, hold up. Explain that wild card comment. What do you mean I'm a wild card?
Well, because your life is spent analyzing MMOs and whether they're
I
worth
see.
your time or not, and that sort of thing. And you got people pulling you in every direction, I'm sure.
No, there's definitely pressure jumping into any game for content, for reviews. There's always a pressure to 60. With Warcraft, with WoW Classic, I have resigned myself to not rushing. I don't think I can. I don't think the game is built for you to rush. You can't. Not because you it's hard for me or whatever. It's just you can't. Like in BFA, like I can get to 120 in maybe a week maximum. Like, I mean, maximum 1 week. And I can put out multiple reviews or whatever. But for Classic, I don't think the game is designed for you to do that. I mean, I could not sleep the whole week and just try, but yeah, I don't want to ruin it for myself that way. So yeah, there is a pressure to rush to 60, but I'm not going to do it. I'm definitely not going to do it.
The players won't let you. And one thing I was going to say earlier too about rushing is you'll find out you'll enjoy Classic so much more if you take breaks, leave your character in the inn and earn rested experience and like try to capitalize on that time. I know everybody laughs about that. That's not really a thing anymore in the game, but rested experience is massive because I don't know if everybody knows this, but the story behind WoW initially was that it was going to be a grinding game and that quests were thrown in at the end to give you direction. And there were very, very few like deep, in-depth endgame quests in the first patch of the game, like in 1.0 or whatever it was. And you could tell it was a grinding game. So when you're out there killing 100 raptors and then another 100 panthers, I mean, you want to get double experience for that. All I'm saying is you're going to spend twice as long to do the same thing if you don't take breaks than if you take breaks and accrue rested. It goes way faster. My second 1 to 60 was way better by taking breaks and maybe hitting 60 like 2 weeks after my friends, but not playing every single day because I just needed the bar to move. It drove me insane.
I mean, it's a good tip. Good tip, and Blizzard loves when people do that, of course, because they get to keep you on that subscription longer. You know,
that's right.
You take those breaks. I mean, I do that like for games like Final Fantasy 14, for example. They have rest XP, and I try and make the most of that wherever there is rested XP. I always park my tunes where I'm gonna benefit from that. So yeah. Gal, do you have one?
No, not really. I had one, but then I lost it.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Another controversial question. Yeah, see, I don't know if I want to ask this.
Uh-oh. How bad is it?
It's not bad, but it's a wild discussion video. I'm just trying to bring this in. All right, let's jump to the next one then. If World of Warcraft died tomorrow, which MMO would you make your home? Coming as WoW players, which is the closest game that offers that WoW experience that you would just jump to?
I want to say ArcAge.
Ooh, that's even more controversial than the question I was going to ask.
I want to say
but I can see why.
I'm very interested in the new changes to ArcAge, and I've always
Unchained.
I've always loved the game the way it feels. Probably ArcAge.
Okay.
I would probably try it Final Fantasy 14 because I've never played that.
Oh, it's so good.
And yeah, I know because I've seen you play it.
So good.
That game is just I can't.
I know.
I want to try it then, if that would be the case.
The
but
good
if
news,
it wouldn't be an MMO, like I would probably not jump into an MMO straight away again. I would probably
Take a break.
get a little bit sick and tired of like, survival games or something.
Yeah.
Because I never got to do that.
I hear you. And just for Tom's benefit here, hey, they're going to be sort of revamping the vanilla game for Final Fantasy XIV in 5.3. So when that happens,
Yep.
you come back, the vanilla game is going to have a more solid journey all the way to the expansions. And if you can stomach the ride to Shadowbringers, oh my god, I'm not even exaggerating, and I'm not trying to be biased because I'm usually not, but oh my god.
Hype is big on it. It looks great too when
Yeah.
I watch streams for it. I'm like, this looks great.
Oh, okay,
Part
cool.
of it's the UI and part of it's the art style. Try to get
Gotcha.
over
Yeah, the
this.
art style is going to be
I
a hard
can
one.
see why, yeah.
I mean, it's that if you can't get over the art, then there's really just nothing you can do, bro. But it's just that's the way it is.
I'll give it a try again. I will come back for the revamp. I promise you. I'll try
Awesome.
that.
But come on, Adrian has made a very nice character.
I have.
Oh yeah, you're like ninja assassin. Or what?
Okay, now I'm
Classic.
stumped. I'm trying to remember.
But, and he went like all dark now,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I had
That's a character.
a white-haired chick. Like most of my MMO characters are white-haired. Don't
Yeah.
ask me why. I started
The
my
Hufflepuff.
MMOs like that. The Haffle family of characters all have white hair. It's part of our sort of backstory. And then
like
for
it.
Shadowbringers, because it's light and dark, I turned her into a brunette, and she is awesome. Now
Nice.
this entire chat's derailed because we're not talking about WoW.
Yes. Sorry.
It's cool. It's cool. Okay.
Part of me also wants to say like a newer game too. If it were out, like Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen, or something like that.
Yeah, and you know what? We can definitely turn that into a WoW context discussion because a lot of people have been saying, games like Pantheon are harkening back to that sort of WoW classic era, and there's a lot of games out there. Project Gorgon, I'm not sure if you guys have heard of that.
Yeah.
It's on Steam.
Mhm.
It has that WoW classic vibe, and even those sort of top-down ARPG style MMOs, sandboxy, Legends of Aria, those kind of games are all people sort of get that classic vibe from it. So. Well, I guess if you guys are looking for games to play like World of Warcraft, if you don't maybe have the money for a subscription, which is totally understandable, or you guys want to wait for it, or check out some of those other games. Okay, final question for both of you, or my two guests. Let's start with Tom. Give me your top maybe 2 or 3 tips for new players jumping into WoW Classic as somebody who's been playing on private servers forever now. What are like the 3 most important things that new players should know jumping in?
Research your class and the potential for the specs. They're not super well balanced. So if you want to be the world's greatest DPS as a Ret Paladin, it's going to be a little harder than if you're going in as a Fury Warrior. So research your class and what you want to do. Also research professions and like how viable they are and how to make money. If you want to go enchanting, you have to stand in the city and yell all day versus another class you can like put stuff on the auction. And third, I would just try to stay just try to go with your own pace, play by the beat of your own drum. People are going to kill you over and over and over again in World PvP. It's not just a game for you to quest in; it's a game for people to kill you into. That's how Classic was designed. So yeah, I don't know. Just try to be patient with it and like have fun even when you lose, and don't get too rushed. Only play when you can. Sometimes your friends will have more game time than you, so just keep it chill for yourself,
Good stuff. Thanks. All right, Gallethril, I'm going to throw you the opposite question for new players coming into Classic and they absolutely hate it or dislike it and they prefer to just go try retail then. So from the retail side of things, if they want to start getting into mythic dungeons and sort of group raids, getting to guild raids, what are some important things that they should know about jumping into retail for the first time?
Oh, that's difficult because it's so easy to level right now. And with 8.2.5, they're actually going to add a lot of stuff to also level together, even though there's going to be huge differences in level. You can help your friends. So I'd say to just find a really nice group to do stuff with in general.
That's cool.
I think that would be the biggest thing. Especially because so many things are... Well, you can get so easily in contact with players that won't understand anything and get mean.
And I'll add one for Gallethril too, and that's know your class, or she's gonna get angry.
Oh, I don't get angry.
Teasing.
I don't mind those things. Like, I'd rather help if I know that that's the case.
See, that's the stand-up WoW player that everybody should aspire to be. Help and not shut them up, shut them down in chat. Because I've been in plenty of MMOs where a new player asks for help and all they get is just shit on, or like Google's your best friend, or some shit like that. Which it just pisses me off, because when I started playing MMOs, the community of the game that I was playing was so helpful that I thought this was the standard for every other game. And then when I left that game and started traveling the world, I'm like horrified at what I found. The only standout exception is not biased or anything, it's Guild Wars 2, because their community is just something else. But then when you come to games like WoW, it's really a mixed bag. Sometimes you get awesome people, sometimes you get people you just instantly put on your blacklist or your block list. So always try and always take the higher ground, always take the higher ground, especially when you're dealing with trolls and assholes in chat.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, and I think that's about it for our question segment. So closing statements from all three of us. I'm going to, of course, start with my guests. WoW Classic is only a few days away, and we know we're all going to be jumping in at some point, taking our time, running around with it. So Tom, for you personally, what are you hoping to get out of jumping into WoW Classic again? Is it purely to fulfill a nostalgia, or is just what is it for you personally?
For me, since I've seen a lot of the content on private servers, a lot of the mystery aspects are kind of gone. So for me, I think I'll really enjoy teaching people, like friends who've never played before. I honestly, truly just hope I can find a really down-to-earth, kind guild that's super accepting.
Start one and I'll join it, and I'll plug it on the channel, so if people want to join it, they can join in. But you're gonna have to lead it though, because I'm shit at guild leading. Trust me. You won't even see me online for like most of the week. So it's like,
good luck, Tom.
Yeah,
you got to do the admin
I don't
stuff.
know.
Start a guild.
I might, if I ever get the time for that, and if I end up playing WoW Classic predominantly. My attentions are definitely drawn to other games right now, but I just hope that I don't know. I hope I can have a lot of fun with it. I know I'm gonna have some of the most fun with that game in its early stages doing world PvP. When there's not a ton of 60s running around with really good gear. Okay. I think that's gonna be when I have the most fun.
All right, and final question for you: race and class.
Ooh. Either female orc shaman or male gnome mage.
Interesting combos, and combos that I will not pick myself, so it's nice to hear, that sort of thing going on. Awesome. Thank you, Tom. All right, Gallethril, what about you? Personally, what are you looking to get out of WoW Classic for you? And we'll start with that.
Yeah, just see if my memory serves me right. Because I haven't played any private servers, so I haven't seen it in like forever. So for me, it's just gonna be nostalgia if I drop in.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when I've had it with other games, it can be really good or it can be really bad.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how that goes.
I'm nervous for you. I'm nervous for you.
I'm nervous for me.
All right, race and class combo.
I would go with the same as Tom said with the first one with the shaman.
Mm-hmm.
Also female, by the way. Yeah.
Orc as well? So that means horde side players
probably.
Here. Gosh, you hordes. Ugh.
I've been Alliance though for a long time.
I just said that to stir shit up. You guys know what I was doing with that. Don't take it personally. I think for the most part we've all been pro Alliance for a long time, so maybe a bit of a horde side would
mix things up.
Yeah, mix things up.
Yeah, there's a lot of voids on either side of the Alliance or Horde, and you can play to their strengths.
Yep.
Since you have Shaman on Horde and Paladin on Alliance. Totally different raid dynamic.
Okay, cool, awesome. As for me, what am I expecting to get out of it? Hopefully a nice review for you guys. A nice review and some streams and some content. For me, personally, I just want to see... I want to see the damn thing and see what the fuss is all about. Like, what the hell, The real answer, I was in high school when WoW came out, Vanilla WoW, and I could only look from afar, even though I was already a fan of the Warcraft games and I had all the novels. It was just beyond my monetary means at the time to play World of Warcraft. So to finally, after how many freaking years, now able to jump in and smell it fresh, the way you buy a new car with your own money and you smell the car for the first time. I know it's a weird way to compare the situations, but you did it. You finally are there. You're able to experience WoW Classic or Vanilla WoW like it was brand new. So I'm looking forward to the experience. Whether I like it or not, at this point, it doesn't matter because it could be either way, honestly. Like, I have my own opinions about what retail WoW is and which are the fun parts and which are the bad parts. And I'm sure I'll have the same about WoW Classic as well. That's what us folks who critique MMOs, we have to always be in that constant mindset. I have no bias. I have no favoritism when it comes to sort of gameplay mechanics. If it sucks, it sucks. There's nothing I can do about it. So you'll see all of that in a live stream or something when we do it. But at this point, that sort of wraps up our discussion, everybody. Big round of applause for our guests here for sitting and talking to us. And I was just clapping, although you guys can't see it. So a big thank you to Gallethril and Tom for joining us. So for final few words here, I'm going to let you guys plug yourselves. Tom, if folks want to get in touch with you to discuss WoW or to pester you into creating that WoW Classic guild or just to talk to you about all the private servers and emulations that you play for other MMOs, how can people get in touch with you, brother?
Best way to get me is on Discord. It's Tom_Bombdahill, and it's the same for my YouTube channel as well. I'm pretty dead there, though. I might make YouTube someday. I might start making videos again, though. But
I'll post his links in the description box below, so you guys can check it out and get in touch with Tom. For Gallethril, she's just got into streaming, which is pretty cool. She also, as you guys heard during the chat, runs her own EU guild on the EU server. I forgot the name of the server and the name of the guild, so I'll let Gallethril tell you guys about it right now.
The name of the guild is Confused. See, that helps when people don't know what to do. And the server is Chamber of Aspect on obviously the EU side.
Awesome.
Wait, what's...
And if folks want to catch you on Twitch or Twitter or any other...
It's Gallethril. It's the same as here. Yeah.
Okay, again,
Easy.
I'll put the links down below so you guys can follow her. And what do you normally stream on Twitch?
Mostly WoW, but every now and then I'll play something different. Depends if my friends can convince.
Fair enough.
Like today, I had some Minecraft.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was a fun stream. I enjoyed that.
My cows kept disappearing. Okay.
Falling to the ground.
Isn't cow disappearance linked to like UFOs and cattle mutilation?
It was bugged. Like I would put them in the pen, and then they would at some point disappear and appear in the mine underneath where somebody else was busy, and fall in the lava.
That is sad. What a sad way to go for a cow.
Yes, I know. So I'm not sure what was going on there.
I don't know if I ever can get into Minecraft. I really don't. Like, the whole pixel stuff is just not my thing. But it's fun, though, because
I get it.
I was introduced to it, like, somebody built the entire Mines of Moria, like in the Lord of the Rings. Somebody built it. And that's when I was like, holy shit, this game is something else. But I never got around to, like, jumping in myself.
It's big, yeah. It's big, though, for sure. You can do a lot with that game.
You can. Yeah.
All right, guys. This is where we're gonna cut off the video and we'll take our Minecraft chat offline. Maybe there's gonna be a blooper section, but yeah. To everybody that watched this, hey, thank you so much for joining us for this very long discussion, which is great because I'm a big fan of long form content. I hope you guys sat through it and enjoyed yourselves with the discussion. Any questions or anything you guys want to add to the conversation about some of these topics and segments, feel free to post them in the comments, and I'll go through them and I'll reply you. Or if you have any questions for these two specifically, Gallethril and Tom, post them in the comments and I'll drag their butts back to this video so that they can answer you in the comment section, which is also another good option. So that's it from us, you guys. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and be sure to subscribe to my channel for all kinds of MMO stuff. And do click that bell to get notified on all my latest uploads. So that's it again from the three of us. Once again, I'm Jeremy Adrian, and I thank you for watching. Later, guys. Hey folks, thanks so much for watching that video. If you guys want to watch more, you can click the subscribe button at the bottom there or somewhere over here. And don't forget to hit that bell to get notified on all my latest videos. So I'll see you guys at the next vid. Take care.